Hi there. Demonstration time. I'm fly casting. Yeah, I've been a fly fisherman for a long time in my life, and it didn't come easy. A lot of practice, years of practice, to be able to handle a fly rod. We're talking about virtue this week. What does virtue have to do with a graphite fly rod? Well, lots of things actually, when I think about it. It has to do with balance, has to do with rhythm, has to do with a sense of control that puts everything together, proportionality. We're going to be talking about the big three of Greek philosophy this week: Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle. Plato and Aristotle were students. Actually Plato was Socrates' student, and Aristotle was the student of Plato. And they really represent the high watermark of Greek philosophical thought. And that's what we're looking at this week. In these three persons, the ethics of virtue, the ethics of character. And actually, one of the best cognates for the word character is ethos. Ethos, ethics, same word. What do we bring to the practice of living that comes from our core? That's really what character is about. And so as we look at character this week, we're looking at the sense of inner strength and what we go on in terms of our everyday practice. Aristotle believed that it was all about practice, that the pursuit of the good was a lifelong pursuit, and it was a lifelong pursuit that was based in a fundamental pursuit of the good. Wherever that takes us. It doesn't always mean that everything works out great, really, for us in the pursuit of the good, except that we pursue the good, and we attempt in our best way to do it. Socrates believed that the unexamined life was not worth living. Learning how to cast a fly rod all those years ago, I had to examine all the pieces. You can't you can't crack your wrist. You crack your wrist like what I'm doing right now on the camera, the line's going to get out of control. You have to keep a firm wrist. It's like you're hammering a nail into a tree, straight on, no movement. I had to learn that. I had to learn to keep my rod tip at a certain direction, and the follow through had to be on a rhythm. Right? 1, 2, 3, 4. And I had to practice and practice and practice that. And it became second nature to me. And so when I'm on a stream, it doesn't matter what the stream is. I read the water, I look at what the situation is, the conditions are, and then I adjust. But I already have in me the ability to throw that line and to throw it in a way where I want it to go. And that's a huge thing. But it took practice. And it took a lot of self-examination in terms of me as a fly caster to get it right. Funny thing, one of the words that comes from the word ignoring, doing what you know is right and then ignoring doing it, not doing it. You know what that word is in Greek? Akrasia. Akrasia. That's the root from the word for us that means crazy. To not do the thing you know to be the right thing or the good thing. It's crazy. And that's a fundamental belief for Socrates, and it carries through into Plato and into Aristotle. And each one, in his own way, was trying to do the right thing, the best thing, in pursuing the good. Plato, of course, he's the one that believes in this pre-existing world of ideas. He called them the forms. And we know them, but we've forgotten them. And so it's a recovery process so much of getting back to those things we know and then pursuing them. The highest good, the sunum bonum. Each one was trying to do his best to pursue good, happiness, all coming from an essential virtuous character, a virtuous self. And so this week we're going to be talking about the ethics that revolve around who we are as integral beings. And just like my fly fishing, my fly casting example was meant to show that there's an integrity to everything. It's not just one thing. It's about, honestly, there's about 8 or 9 things going on when I cast a fly rod like that. And it's all in a particular motion, and everything comes together to put that line out pretty straight where I want it to go. All of that, however, is fitting together into a whole. There's an interesting word in the German. It's called Gemitte. Gemitte, and it's a cognate for the word integrity. And the word Gemitte means it fits. And that's what integrity is. It is the fitting together of one's character into one's life, into one's presentation of self. In the ethics of virtue, it is our presentation of self in all the circumstances of our life that come together and are of one substance moving forward. This week there are a couple of discussion questions that I'm going to ask you to respond to. One is on the acquisition and discovery of truth by looking at a couple of different films. And I'm not interested necessarily really in your ideas about the filmmaking attempts. One is from a claymation, animated clay figures versus I'm blanking right this second. It's there on your resources list. The Matrix. And, I'm not interested in what your ideas about each filmmaking attempt was like, the artistic effects. That's secondary to me at this point. What is interesting, though, is 2 different versions of how one acquires the truth. And yet, where are they similar? Where do they diverge? And I want you to examine that. I put up a couple of different PowerPoints for you on each of the 3 people we've talked about. One on Aristotle, one on Socrates, one on Plato, and one on Aristotle. And I also put up a PowerPoint that is just simply ancient Greece in photographs. I went online and gathered a couple of different shots of things like the Parthenon and the Agora and the Plaka and places where these men walked and talked and debated and discussed, as much as just sort of to put them into a concrete place. They were real people. I mean, they are 2,500 years removed from us, but they're real. They were real. There's an interesting painting that is in the Papal Palace in the Vatican. It was done by the painter Raphael da Sanzio, and it's called School of Athens. And it was an homage by the Pope at the time to acknowledge the Greek and Roman foundations in academics and philosophy and education and the arts and sciences that the church inherited, the medieval culture was inheriting by virtue of being the next in line, so to speak. In the center of that painting, look it up, School of Athens. Actually, it's on one of the PowerPoints. In the School of Athens, you see Plato and Aristotle and their center, front and center in the painting. And Plato, he's looking at Aristotle, and he has his hand up in the air, like this. And he's pointing with his finger. Aristotle was looking at Plato, also in the center, the 2 of them, And he has his hand like this, straight out in front of him with his hand down like this. And each one is signifying to the other, no, no, no. Plato says it's about the things that are above us, beyond us, the transcendent. That's what's most important. That's the basis on which we live. And Aristotle, on the other hand, says, no, 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 no. Plato, it's about the stuff that's here, where we live, the stuff that we can taste, touch, sense, and feel. The immanent. That's what it's about. And we need to explore the immanent. Quite frankly, between the transcendent and the immanent is all. And whether you start with that which is beyond us and begin to try to apprehend it, or we start with the stuff we can know, feel, taste, and touch, and work from there to things that we might discern, covering the width between this and this is all. And in the middle of all that is you, and your character, and your integrity, and what you bring to the idea of ethics, and that fundamental question, how then shall I live? Welcome to week 5. We'll see you later.